Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is September 13th, 2023, and Barcelona have officially presented Deco as the new sporting director of the club. Also, there's a little bit of bad news in regards to Vitor Roque because there is a small chance that he could arrive in the summer rather than the winter of 2024. And finally, the bombshell news of today, it's been revealed that Javier Tebas works for Real Madrid. And no, I don't mean this metaphorically. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Barca News' official live stream, which is on every Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I had a little bit of technical difficulties, but they've all been fixed, so the live stream is ready, and I'm ready to bring you all the news from today. Now, as always, we'll do a segment of news, then we'll go to the chat section to get a discussion going, answer any questions. For those people who will be watching the live stream once it ends, I will be adding timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you want to skip through the discussion. And having said all of that, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you're looking to buy any Barcelona merchandise, make sure you hit the kit bag. And if you want to place any sports bets, not just on Barcelona matches, but any sporting event from around the world, make sure you hit the Bet Us. Both links are in the description. Now, let's begin with the news. As always, or as I usually tend to do, I want to smash or mush together three brief bits of news. They're too short to stand alone. They have their own segment. So let's do three bits of news together, and then we'll head to the chat section. But let's start with the first bit of news, because Barcelona will be displaying the Rolling Stones logo on their jersey for El Clásico match. Now, as you already know, Barcelona have a sponsorship deal with Spotify, and part of this sponsorship deal is that Barcelona sometimes wear jerseys with the logos of certain artists. You know, the first artist was Drake when he reached, I think it was the 1 billion streams. To celebrate that, Barcelona wore the owl, the OVO owl of Drake. Then in the last Clásico, they wore the Rosalía Motomami logo. She's a Catalan. I think she's Catalan. I know she's Spaniard for sure, artist. And now Barcelona will be wearing the Rolling Stone logo for the upcoming El Clásico match, which will be on October 29th. Now, the reason Spotify and Barcelona agreed to this is because the Rolling Stones, not only are they a legendary rock and roll group, but actually they will be releasing an album right before a Clásico match. And this will be their first album in 18 years. And in order to celebrate that, that's why Barcelona will be wearing their logo. The club are still finalizing the last details of the agreement with Spotify, but it is for sure that this will be the logo on a Barcelona jersey on October 29th when Barcelona will play the El Clásico match at the Montjuic Stadium, or the Olympic Stadium in Montjuic. Now, the second bit of news is İlkay Gündoğan, because I told you in yesterday's video that he suffered an injury during the match between Germany and France, which was a friendly match, which pisses me off even more, because why the hell are these players playing friendly matches when the calendar is already pretty long and packed with matches? By the way, Barcelona will play 50 matches this season alone. Then you add all these international breaks. It just doesn't make sense to have players play stupid friendly matches, but whatever. İlkay Gündoğan had to leave the field with an injury. We didn't know what it was. He was seen clinching his back, so we imagined there was a back injury. Well, today he flew back to Barcelona. He underwent medical exams, and the medical exams have revealed that it's not a serious injury. It's simply a blow. He does have some inflammation, a hematoma from the blow in his lower back, but it's not a serious injury. I'm sure it's causing him pain, but it won't prevent him from playing the upcoming match against Real Betis. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that Xavi will for sure start him. After all, İlkay Gündoğan did play both matches with Germany, against Japan and against France. But as far as being ready, of having the medical green light. Ilkay Gundogan has the medical green light, so he could play that match against Real Betis. Now, the final bit of news is that Barcelona tomorrow will officially unveil the financial fair play rule numbers, so we will know exactly what the wage bill stands at, what the wage limit is at, and we're going to know all the numbers officially tomorrow. So stay tuned to the channel because, of course, I will be making a video to give you all the Barcelona numbers. So make sure you're subscribed and make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Now, that's all the 3 bits of news that I wanted to put together. Let's head to the chat section. Let's get a discussion going, and then we'll talk about Deco's unveiling and what we've learned, because obviously that unveiling had also a press conference where a lot of things were said. All right. Luis Lua says Barca is headed towards a bright future. I hope we don't talk too much about big name players coming to Barca. I want Deco to be in charge of searching for young talent like Yamal, Fermin, and Faye. Yes, I hope so too. But of course, you have to understand that any successful team has to have a mix of both. You can't just have young players. You also have to add some few stars. But yes, I'm very excited about the club's new direction, where Deco is insisting on wanting to identify young talent with lots of potential before anyone else can, because that would be very good for Barcelona sporting wise, but it would also be very good for the economy. You know, if we can buy a player 2-3 million for 2-3 million euros before he explodes and his value becomes 100 million euros, perhaps why not? Okay, Chunky says Tebas caused the technical difficulties. Yes, he did. He did. He didn't want me to tell you about this crazy story, so I'm pretty sure it was him. Let's see. Chuchu says, bruh, that Rolling Stones logo ain't it. You know, I agree. I'm not a big fan. I think it looks, I mean, the lips with the big tongue, it looks a little bit ridiculous. It looks a little bit cartoonish, clownish. I don't know, but they are a legend. You know, I've never listened to them. I'm not old enough to know who the Rolling Stones are, but they are, in as far as music, when it comes to legends, they are up there, you know. Okay, one more and then we'll head back to the news. And Ross says, did you watch the Prime Season 2 of Barca documentary? Also, I don't like the RS logo. Tell them not to do it for me, please, and thank you. Okay, I haven't seen the second season. I haven't even seen the first season of the documentary. I have to find time, but I will try. Okay, one more because this is funny. Tebas working for Real Madrid is fake news. It's not fake news, my friend, and I have the proof, but I won't spoil it because it comes later. Okay, so let's talk about Deco's unveiling, because today Barcelona officially presented Deco as the new sporting director of Barcelona. He, of course, had been already working in that position for quite some time. He had been helping the club this whole summer, but it wasn't until now that he was officially presented as the sporting director. And also, there was a lot of course, there was a press conference. There was a lot of questions asked. There was a lot of things said. And I took kind of like the more important points out of this press conference because I didn't want to bore you with all the other details. I watched the whole thing. It was pretty long. But pretty much in a nutshell, what Barcelona said about Deco is that when they chose him because they wanted someone that not only knew how to do an administrative position in the club, because of course he's had multiple businesses, his agency, so he knows how to administer or work in administration, but they also wanted someone from a footballing background, which of course Deco is. He's a Barcelona legend. He played many years at the club. And of course, they wanted someone who was a true blood on heart, who loved Barcelona. And while Deco fit all these 3 categories, he's someone who knows how to work in administration. He has footballing background and he loves Barcelona. Another thing that was talked about, there was a lot of questions about the relationship with Alemany, what happened, why Deco is now the footballing director instead of Matteo Alemany. And while in a nutshell, it seems that when Alemany first announced that he was leaving the club, I don't know if you remember that. I think that was back in May or something. Barcelona had already reached out to Deco and agreed that he would become the football director. And then Matteo Alemany decided, no, I want to stay. But by then, the club had already agreed with Deco. So that's why I decided that Deco would be the footballing director and that Alemany has actually left on good terms. There's no hard feelings. He understands that, okay, the reason why Barcelona reached out to Deco was because he, to begin with, decided to quit and then changed his mind. Now, other things from the presentation of Deco is that Barcelona have officially unveiled the new sporting structure, and I'll make it bigger for you guys to see. There we go. That's the new official sporting structure. Of course, the president remains Joan Laporta, with his vice president being Rafa Yuste, and right under Rafa Yuste we see Anderson Luis de Souza, aka Deco. To the left, we see the first team manager, of course, is Xavi Hernandez. To the right, we see a sports commission made up of Joan Laporta, Rafa Yuste, Joan Soler, Deco, Eric Masip, and Bojan Krkic. And this was a bit surprising because we had talked about Bojan Krkic joining the club. We said that his duties would include, kind of counseling the young players who make it to the first team to help them with that transition, because, we all know what happened with Bojan. He, was expected to be this next best thing out of La Masia. Unfortunately, the change from the lower teams to the first team was too much for him, too much fame, too much attention, and he suffered from extreme anxiety, which did not allow him to reach his full potential. So we talked about how his job would be as a counselor for these young players, so the same thing doesn't happen. But this is interesting because he will also be part of the sports commission, which we didn't know about before. Now, if you don't know what the sports commission is, this is pretty much an advisory board, if you may. They're the ones who kind of discuss, things like signings, offloadings. They sit down and talk about names. Should we sign this guy? Should we offload that guy? So it looks like Bojan will have something to say, or they will be listening to him as far as the club signings and offloadings. And then if you look all the way at the bottom, his official title of Bojan will be football coordinator. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that Bojan will be the link between Xavi Hernandez and the lower teams. So he will be kind of bring reports to Xavi. Hey, we should check out this player. He's doing really good in the subcategories. Maybe we should promote him. Maybe we should bring him up to the first team. And there's also reports saying that Bojan will also be in charge of monitoring the loans. So players who leave on loans, Bojan's job will be to watch those players in their new teams and then write reports about what those players are doing, how they're doing in their new teams, whether it's a successful loan or not. Should Barcelona sign them, bring them back from loan and keep them, or should they, offload them? So that was one surprising thing about the press conference, where we found out that Bojan will actually have a lot more duties than initially expected. Now, more things from the press conference. This is important. Alejandro Balde and Lamine Yamal. Deco confirmed that both will be signing their official contract renewals in the upcoming days. But one thing that was interesting is that Masip said that the two were very close to leaving the club. Apparently, there were many clubs who were willing to offer a lot of money to take the two players away. They didn't say who, but some reports are saying it could be Manchester City amongst them, because we know Manchester City did approach Lamine Yamal back in February. So they're saying that these two were in danger of leaving the club. And if it wasn't for the relationship between Joan Laporta and Jorge Mendes, that there was a chance that these two could have left. Now, of course, both of them want to play in Barcelona. They want to stay in Barcelona. I'm sure they would have said, no, I want to stay. But when you're 16, 18 years old and a club comes flashing money, who knows? Maybe they would have left. But it seems that when these clubs started bringing that money to Jorge Mendes picked up the phone, immediately called Joan Laporta and said, hey, look, there's some clubs who are serious about this. They're willing to put a lot of money on the table. Let's do something and let's tie these guys down. And it's thanks to that Barcelona were able to act fast and renew the contract of the two players. Now, the last important bit of news from the press conference of the presentation of Deco is this guy, Vitor Roque. Because Deco was asked about Vitor Roque, whether he's going to arrive in January, and Deco's response was, it will depend on Barcelona's financial situation. So, in a nutshell, if Barcelona still don't have enough space on their wage bill due to the financial fair play rules, then Vitor Roque might not arrive in January, and we might have to wait all the way until the summer. So for sure, obviously, we know he's going to arrive in the summer. He's not going to come any later. Barcelona's hope is to bring him in January. But if La Liga decide that Barcelona don't have enough space on their wage bill for Vitor Roque, we might have to wait until the summer. Now, hopefully that does not happen. This doesn't mean that it will for sure happen, but it is a possibility, which is not good. Now, let's go back to the chat section. We'll do a few more comments, and then I'll tell you about the supposed fake news of Javier Tebas working for Real Madrid. Okay, let's see. Where did we leave off? Afore says, I don't know the reason why the Haaland rumors pissed me off. Barca want to sign Haaland. Like you said, they're rumors. Barcelona are not trying to sign Haaland. There's no money for Haaland. So no, that's not a thing. Okay, Tatu says, have you heard rumors of... Oh, well, the same thing. No, he's not coming. Again, Barcelona have no intention of signing him. They can't afford him. Zamin says, I would like to have Leao in my team. Sure, I would too, but there's no money. Theophilus says, be very honest with Mo. I think Deco appeared very smart and pragmatic. I believe in him as a director of football. The club will make sound decisions in signing players. I wish him well. I mean, so far, I think Deco's been doing a good job. So, I don't know. I wish him well too, obviously. Like I said, when it was first announced that Deco will be the director of football, I really don't have a horse in the race. I don't care if it's Alemany the director or if Deco's the director. I want to be whoever's best in that position, and I want whoever is in that position to excel. That's it. I don't care who it is. Because obviously, if that person excels, then the club excels as a whole. Theophilus says, Javier Tebas has been a disaster for La Liga in general and FC Barcelona in particular. I don't know what he is fighting to achieve. I don't know either. But we have a special request from Subadip who says, please say, wow! And with that, guys, let's talk about the bombshell news that was brought to you today by Crónica Libre, which is an independent media outlet in Spain. They're the ones who wrote that article a few days ago, which I made a special video about Tebas sending false evidence to the prosecutor's office, which prompted the investigation into Barcelona in the Enriquez Negreira case. And well, today they brought us the news that Javier Tebas, in his free time, he works as a professor for Real Madrid Graduate School, or as in Spanish is known as the Real Madrid University. And no, it's not fake news, because here is his CV, ladies and gentlemen. And this is straight from La Liga's website. So no, it's not fake, Mr. Tim. You can yourself go laliga.com, look up Javier Tebas, look at his resume, and all the way at the bottom, it clearly shows that he works for the Real Madrid University. Unless you're claiming that Javier Tebas falsified his own resume or La Liga falsified its own website. But no, it's not fake news, my friend. I'm sorry to break your heart. Javier Tebas is indeed, by his own admission, an employee of the Real Madrid University, which, yes, it is owned by Real Madrid, whose president is Florentino Perez. Now, the craziest thing about this whole thing is that where is the outrage? Because there isn't a single media outlet reporting about this. There aren't any specials that go on for hours and hours where they bring all these experts and all these commentaries to talk about this, like they did with the Enrique Negreira case. There's absolutely no mention of the fact that it's right there out in the open on La Liga's website, in Javier Tebas' resume, that he's an employee for Real Madrid, that Real Madrid actually pays him money in violation of La Liga's ethical rules. Now, Javier Tebas has always proclaimed himself as a fervent Real Madrid fan. He's always said that, which that already is a conflict of interest, because as the president of La Liga, you're supposed to look out for the best interest of all the clubs in La Liga, and you're already saying that you're a fan of one of those clubs. That's already a conflict of interest. But then to add to that the fact that he's actually making money off one of these clubs, that he's earning a paycheck off this one of those clubs, it's a huge violation of the ethical rules of La Liga, which he's a president of, but yet we don't hear anything. And that's the hypocrisy of Spanish football. That's the hypocrisy of La Liga. That's the hypocrisy of Spanish media, because when the Negreira case came out, everybody was in outrage. Oh my God. Even Javier Tebas himself, who had the audacity of saying that Joan Laporta should resign from his post because Barcelona were paying the vice president of the committee of referees, but there he is, president of La Liga, getting paid by Real Madrid. I mean, if we're going to apply his own standard that he requested from Laporta to resign, I think he should follow his own advice. Don't you think so? And again, that's not the only fishy things about Tebas. Let's remember, several months ago, I made a video where it was uncovered that while Tebas was the vice president of La Liga, he was charging clubs money to produce refereeing reports. Kind of the same reports that Enrique Negreira was producing for Barcelona, Tebas was producing for other clubs, charging them money while he was the vice president of La Liga. But then he has the audacity of asking Laporta to resign, and yet he was doing the same exact thing. And it doesn't stop there, because there's more dirt that has come up. This is a little bit older, but just to show you the hypocrisy of this disgusting crook. Do you guys remember this guy? This was a Real Madrid coach named Bernd Schuster. He was German. While Javier Tebas was the vice president of La Liga, he represented Schuster in his signing for Real Madrid, because Javier Tebas is an attorney. So he negotiated the signing of Schuster for Real Madrid as a head coach. And in those negotiations, he included a clause that if Real Madrid would win that season of La Liga, Javier Tebas would get €100 million bonus. And lo and behold, Real Madrid won La Liga that season. That was the only thing that coach won. And of course, Javier Tebas got his €1 million. How is that not a conflict of interest to be the vice president of La Liga while negotiating the contract of a coach to sign for one of La Liga's clubs? How is it not a conflict of interest for Javier Tebas to be charging clubs money for reports while he's the vice president of La Liga? How is it not a conflict of interest for Javier Tebas to be an employee of Real Madrid while he's the president of La Liga? I don't know. But apparently when Barcelona do something, it's wrong. But when Javier Tebas do it, it's not. And that's where we at, guys. Welcome to La Liga. All right, let's get back to that chat section. And we'll do some comments. JK says, hi Mo, JK from Sydney, Australia. Good to catch you live today. Keep up the good work. Thank you, JK. And thank you for watching. And Romain says, I swear, the more I hear about everything the league simply overlooks, the more I'm getting to hate this league. This league is dirtier than a public toilet, my friend. Brad says, I don't even mind if he is a fan or employee, but his decision-making seemed to benefit Real Madrid. It's just a matter of things being so corrupt that no one cares anymore. No one cares because it's Real Madrid. Can you imagine if tomorrow we find out that Javier Tebas is working for Barcelona, or Barcelona pays Javier Tebas? Oh my God. I mean, we would have a SWAT team breaking down the offices of Barcelona, dragging everybody out in handcuffs. But it's Real Madrid, so it's okay. Richard says, Mo, honestly, this isn't any news. Are you surprised? But thankfully, his term is coming to an end soon. Anyway, if we play our best, no one, even Madrid, biased refs, and President Tebas can stop us. Well, it's not that I'm surprised, but someone has to bring this out. Someone has to talk about it. Because if we all just go along and not saying anything, then this shit will continue to happen. Okay, one more, and then we'll go back to talk about the Enriquez data since we are talking about corruption. Okay, Subadip says, one thing to learn from Perez, how to cover up your shady business. Yes, he's a master at that. I'll tell you that. Okay, now let's talk about your favorite subject, Enriquez Negreira, because a court has ruled that Real Madrid could stay on the complaint against Barcelona as a party. Now, by now, you all know that the prosecutor's office in Spain opened an investigation into Barcelona for corruption because Barcelona had hired this guy on your screen, former referee Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira, from the years 2001 to 2018. And during those 17 years, Barcelona paid him a total of 7 million euros. Now, during those years, he was also the vice president of the committee of referees. So, of course, the prosecutor's office opened an investigation to see whether Barcelona had bribed referees through Negreira. So, in other words, if Barcelona gave Negreira money and then Negreira gave that money to refs to rule in favor of Barcelona. Of course, after months of investigation, the prosecutor's office have found zero evidence of any kind of bribery. And instead, they switched their focus to see whether Rosé and Bartomeu were using Negreira's company to steal and launder money away from the club. And ever since the prosecutor's office reached that conclusion, the Negreira case kind of died out. Nobody was talking about it in the media until 2 weeks ago when the summer transfer market closed. There was the international break. There wasn't a lot of news. So, of course, the Madrid-based media decided to hash this out and started talking about the Negreira case and making it look like there's new evidence that proves Barcelona bribed referees. But, of course, there's no new evidence. Nothing has changed. There's still zero evidence of bribery. The prosecutor's office is still investigating Bartomeu and Rosé to see if they stole money from the club. But what these Madrid-based media were using to create these fake allegations that there is new evidence was a court ruling that said that Madrid could stay on as a party to the complaint. Because when the complaint was filed against Barcelona for corruption, Real Madrid decided to join as a party. Barcelona filed an appeal saying that Madrid should not be allowed to be a party because they're represented by La Liga, which La Liga are already a party to this complaint. But the court ruled in favor of Madrid and said, yeah, it's not ideal that Madrid is its own party, but they have the right to do so. I think it's stupid because this opens the door for every club in La Liga to join this lawsuit. You know, if you know anything about class actions, when you bring a class action, you bring in one case on behalf of hundreds or thousands of people. That way you don't have to bring hundreds or thousands of cases. And here, that's what they're doing. They're doing the opposite. They're opening the door for every club to join, which all would do would delay this case. You know, more paperwork, more attorneys, more hearings, etc. But I don't want to bore you with the legalese. When the court ruled that Madrid could stay a party to this complaint, they wrote an opinion. And part of that opinion was that judge that I made a video about where he said that there was systemic corruption in the committee of referees that benefited Barcelona. And the only evidence he cited to was his logical possibility. So no evidence. Now, what this judicial decision said, and this is what the Madrid-based media are using to say that there is new evidence, what they were saying is that no, they don't think Barcelona bribed referees the traditional way. Like, here's money, you rule in my favor. But this decision said that they think that Barcelona bribed referees in an innovative way. And yes, they use that word, innovative way, through the promotion and demotion system. So in other words, Barcelona paid Enriquez Negreira, then Enriquez Negreira would promote referees from the second to the first division. And then these referees would rule in favor of Barcelona. And the benefit to these referees would be that, of course, when you get bumped to the first division, you get a salary raise, you get more benefits, etc. So it's more of an indirect bribe, if you may, because Barcelona are not giving them cash. They're earning more cash through their salary. and thanks to Enrique Negreira promoting them. So that's the hypothesis of these judges. They have requested from the civil guard or the police to investigate to see if there is any evidence of that. So let's break that down, because that hypothesis that Barcelona bribed referees through Enrique Negreira promoting them is absolutely impossible. And the funny thing about this whole thing is that the own judicial decision that says this might have happened exactly explains why this will be impossible. This is how stupid these people are. Because the judicial decision describes exactly the promotion and demotion system. See, Enrique Negreira did not have the power to promote or demote referees. So right there, that hypothesis is out the window. Why would Barcelona pay Enrique Negreira to promote referees that would rule in their favor when he doesn't even have the power to do that? Okay? Now, what he did have is the power of suggesting. He could suggest, hey, we should promote this referee. So you might say, well, maybe that's how it worked. Barcelona paid him. He would suggest. Then for a referee to be promoted, that referee would be promoted, then rule in favor of Barcelona. Well, that possibility is also impossible. Why? Because Enrique Negreira was one out of 3 vice presidents. So there were 3 vice presidents in the committee of referees, and every single one of them had the power to suggest a promotion of referees. On top of that, there was a separate committee of inspectors whose job was to go to matches, watch the performance of referees, and then write reports suggesting the promotion or demotion of referees. On top of all of that, there was a separate inspector from the Royal Spanish Football Federation who also inspected referees' reports and determined whether these referees deserve to be promoted or demoted. And at the end, the sole power rested in the president of the committee of referees. So, for this to have worked, for Barcelona to have influenced matches through the promotion and demotion system, they would have had not just to pay Enrique Negreira, but they would have had to pay the other 2 vice presidents, which there's no evidence of that. They would have had to pay the entire committee of inspectors, which there's no evidence of that. They would have had to pay the inspector of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, which there's no evidence of that. And they would have had to pay the president of the committee of referees, which there's also no proof of that. So even the own judicial decision that says that maybe Barcelona bribed referees through the promotion demotion system, even that own decision explains how that would be impossible. That's how stupid these people are. Because there's absolutely no evidence of any of this. And the more facts come out, the more this case looks ridiculous. But yet, the Madrid-based media, the Madrid YouTubers will continue to tell you the same story that Barcelona bribed referees, even though there's absolutely no evidence of that, because they just want to blow hot air up your ass because they can't handle one fact and one fact only. And that's that Barcelona, for almost 2 decades, humiliated Real Madrid over and over again, whether it was through the Pep Guardiola years, the Luis Enrique years, whatever it was, and they can't handle that fact. So the only way to justify that pain is by telling you Barcelona won because of the refs, not because they were better, not because Pep Guardiola revolutionized football, not because Pep Guardiola demolished every team in Europe, not because Luis Enrique demolished every team in Europe. No, it's because of the refs. Because we live in a day and age where it's much easier to justify your own failures through external reasons than to admit defeat. And we see that all the time. You know, Argentina didn't win the World Cup because they were better. It was because FIFA wanted them, right? Leo Messi's not doing great in the MLS. It's all scripted, right? Because it's easier to justify that through external reasons rather than admit the truth. You know, it's like the little kid who says, oh, I got a bad grade on my test, not because I didn't study, it's because the teacher hates me, right? Or I got fired from my job, not because I suck as an employee, but because my boss hates me. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Again, welcome to La Liga. All right, that is all the news, guys. There was a lot to talk about, but we still have a few more minutes to discuss. All right, Brad says logical possibility equals we have no evidence, but if we did, there is a possibility that something might be suspect. Logical possibility means I'm talking out of my ass. That's what it means. And the fact that came from an actual judge, it really worries me. Because if it's a reporter, whatever, they can say whatever they want. But it's a judge. This guy is supposed to know about the law, about what's evidence and what's not. And yet his evidence was his logical possibility, which is not even logical because his own opinion describes exactly how his own hypothesis would not work. USA, guys. All right. Ramon says, Roque coming in the summer means he won't get overplayed, so it might not be a bad thing. How would he get overplayed if he arrives in the winter? Theophilus says, well, the judge should also know that it's also a logical possibility that Enrique Negreira was scamming FC Barcelona. There is a possibility of that. But the evidence points more that it was Bartomeu and Rosé stealing money from the club because they were overpaying for these reports. So, one way you can steal from the club, let's say the report costs, 50,000 euros. So you write on the receipts of the club, the report costs 200, not 50. And you give Enrique Negreira 50, and then you keep the 150, right? And I really think that's what was happening. Of course, the investigation is still ongoing. There's no evidence. But I think that was happening with everything. Because when Laporta took over, he hired an external auditor that went through every single contract, every single receipt, every single everything, record at the club. And they found out thousands of contracts with vendors, with service providers where Barcelona were completely overpaying. Like if a service cost 100,000, Barcelona were paying 500,000. So I really think that's what Bartomeu and Rosé were doing all across the board, just pretending that Barcelona were paying more, but in reality, they were pocketing the difference. All right, let's see. Lucius says, Judge must have gotten his education from Real Madrid Academy. Probably. Maybe Javier Tebas was his professor, because that's what Javier Tebas teaches at Real Madrid University. He's a professor of masters in law. Brad says, will the injuries this week force Xavi to go back to 4-3-3? Hopefully. I don't know. Like, I made my opinion clear. The 4-4-2 is not the problem. 4-4-3 is not the problem. The problem is the players cannot get those fast transition, fast passes. They move the ball too slow, which gives plenty of time for the other side to close any spaces. And that's what is killing us. This whole, four midfielders. 4-4-2 is the most common formation in the world. There's nothing wrong with the 4-4-2 formation. You can have 50 forwards. If you're not getting the ball to them, it doesn't matter how many forwards you have. Sander says, we no need Haaland. His father once said if City deal doesn't work, other option is Munich, Madrid, PSG, Liverpool, and Chelsea. Last option is only Barcelona. There's no plan to bring Haaland, so it doesn't matter. Lucius says, can Barca sue all these Barca haters for defamation? There's already plenty of lawsuits. I think over a dozen lawsuits that Barcelona have filed for defamation against several reporters. So yes, they can, and they are. But of course, these cases take a while. So we won't hear about the judgments for another maybe a couple of years. Evatil says, I heard that Gundogan is going to be available. Yes, I discussed this at the beginning of the live stream. Young Braveheart says, all this stuff with no evidence and just opinions, time to sue them into hell. Yes, I agree. And so says, hi, I'm from Myanmar. That's awesome. I think you're the first person from Myanmar in the live stream. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for joining. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. I will see you in tomorrow's video. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a good night or good morning wherever you are. And as always, Visca Barça.